My name is Julie Sheridan, and this is my video report for the third inquiry project for CEP 806. For this project, I worked with my grade level partner Kathy to investigate the characteristics of completing a science experiment in a face-to-face environment and another one in an online synchronous environment. For each activity, we had to design an item using specific tools and for a very specific purpose. Each context had its own distinct set of characteristics that we had to work within. For the face-to-face activity, Kathy and I met at my house on a Saturday afternoon. Using the supplies on the supply list, we built as many egg carton contraptions as we could come up with the hopes of being able to successfully drop it from a height of 8 feet and having our egg survive. For the online synchronous activity, one night after school, Kathy and I met via Skype and collaborated and worked together in order to build a catapult that would launch a peanut M&M the greatest distance. For the online synchronous experiment, Kathy and I used Skype to interact with each other. At the start, we struggled with being able to see exactly what the other person was constructing, and we had to learn to communicate very specifically what we thought would help enhance our catapult design. Once we were able to get our laptops set up and the webcams covering what we needed them to, the experiment went very smoothly. There was some lag time as we deconstructed one catapult and began constructing another, but seeing as we were both eager to determine the best design, it didn't last for long. We were each able to build and test out several models of catapults. The first catapult we built was a simple barrel design with all of the pencils bunched together. While this did launch the peanut M&M, we quickly realized it wasn't a stable catapult and got to work to remedy this problem. The most successful catapult was triangular in shape, which gave us a stable base to hold on to while we launched the M&Ms. Our greatest average distance was 23 feet 2 inches. One thing I realized while we worked through this synchronous experiment was that it felt at times as though Kathy and I were competing against each other to determine the best design instead of working as a team. I felt that this was due to the fact we were both building our own catapults instead of working collaboratively on one. Using Skype forced us to rely solely on verbal communication in order to complete the activity, and this did take some getting used to. As elementary teachers, we are used to teaching our students using a show method over a tell one, and this was obvious when we began this experiment. It's eye-opening how much you rely on nonverbal communication to get work done, especially when using it is not an option. For the face-to-face experiment, Kathy and I met at my house to construct a contraption that would allow us to drop an egg from a height of 8 feet without causing any damage to the egg. Kathy and I had previously talked about how we could construct an egg container, so once she arrived, we quickly got into a rhythm of building and testing out our ideas. We started out creating a cushion around the egg carton using the balloons, and were disappointed that the egg did crack significantly as a result of the fall. After several other failed attempts, we finally came up with our best design, using paper as a parachute to slow down the drop, and cut up toilet paper rolls to lessen the impact. Although the egg did still receive a slight crack in it as a result of the drop, we were pleased that there wasn't any egg matter leaking out of the shell. We considered this design to be a success. The experiment flowed smoothly. The only stumbling block we ran into was where to drop the egg from. I had grossly underestimated the height at which I could drop the egg while standing on a lawn chair, so we had to break out the ladder in order to test out our product from the correct drop height. After that, we created several different containers, and while we weren't ever completely successful dropping the eggs, our designs did get better as we went along. I really enjoyed working with Kathy on this project. We worked well as a team to create the best design. It really felt as though we were both vested in what we were doing and finding ways to be successful. After completing this inquiry project, I realized the importance of working collaboratively with your peers. Being able to approach and solve problems as a team sets the stage for a positive learning experience. I also learned the importance of verbal and nonverbal communication skills. The saying, "you don't know what you have until it's gone," comes to mind when working synchronously to solve a problem and you aren't able to rely on your nonverbal communication skills. I did find it really interesting that I felt like I was competing against my partner during the Skype activity, and I'm really curious if this would have happened if we were working with only one set of supplies, therefore supporting whichever one of us had the materials instead of trying to outdo the other one. Even though we hadn't talked about out-designing each other, it really felt like that's what this activity turned into in the end. Another interesting thought I had was what it would be like to complete the same experiment in both situations, but with a different partner each time. I believe that this would lend itself to producing a situation where you would be more closely comparing apples to apples versus two different experiences in two different contexts where the differences clearly outweigh the similarities, making it very challenging to compare the rhythm and flow of each experiment.